Nafal Lefanav Nun Beis Amud Beis, the last line. Okay, today's daf is daf Nun Gimel, daf 53. We're going to begin on daf Nun Beis Amud Beis. The line starts with Shema Minei, the Nafal Lefanav. Now, the Mishnah, yesterday we learned Nafal Lefanav. If a man was digging or widening a pit, and what happened was, Nafal Lefanav, an ox passing by, fell into this pit. Now, it fell into the pit, the Mishnah says, Mikrela Kriya, which is from the fright due to the sound of digging. The guy was hacking and digging, and the animal got scared, and he fell Lefanav. He fell, literally, we think it means head first. So, the Mishnah said that if it fell head first, and it died, so then the halacha is that he's chayiv. But if it fell la'achayrav, if he fell backwards, then he is pater. That's what the Mishnah said. The Gemara is going to explain. Nafal Lefanav, if he was digging, this guy was digging and widening his beard, and an ox passing by fell forward into the pit because of the noise of the digging. So the halacha is he's chayiv. If it fell backwards, he's pater. So Amar Rav says Lefanav, when the Mishnah says it means forward, Lefanav mamish, it means mamish forward. La'acharav, and backwards, it means acharav mamish. Now, it's very important to understand what's the difference between the two. And we're going to explain this. Rashi says, it's important Rashi, Lefanav mamish, apanav nafal v'meis min hahevel. So, which means like this. When the shade fell in and died, what happened was the sound, he got frightened, and then he fell into the pit. From the hevel of the pit, it choked him, and he died. So then he'll be chayiv. But if the guy went ahead and fell backwards, so that means it was a direct damage from the actual beard, according to Rav, he'll be pater. Why will it now? Yeah, this is what it means. Now both this and that, in other words, the two halachas of Lefanav and Lachedev is talking about that the shade fell into the beard. Nevertheless, when it fell backwards, the Mishnah tells me that the owner of the beard is pater from paying the nezek. Why? Because the share was not damaged from the hevel of the burr. It was just from the clapping of the karka that it got damaged. And Rav goes according to his reasoning. Rav says, Bur shechiv elav teda, and we have this already in Daf Nun, that when the teda says a pit that the Torah obligates a person to pay for when bear damages means lehevlei, if the bear was caused by the pit, if it's lethal fumes, such as, let's say, the animal suffocates from it inside, then he's chayiv, but not the damage caused by the impact of the hitting of the ground, from which he is pater from compensation. So since the shade fell backwards on its back, so the owner of the bear is pater from paying for it, paying compensation, as the ox wasn't killed by the actual hevel, by the lethal fumes, but by the impact of the fall. That's how Rav learns. Rav is all limud, Daf Nun. That's dafke bear means lehevele v'le lechavot, which is a chiddush. Now, Shmuel says absolutely not. Bein b'lefana, bein b'la'acherav. If the ox fell in the pit, forward or backwards, doesn't matter. He's chayiv. Now, Shmuel goes according to his reasoning. The Amar Shmuel says lehevle. When the Teda classifies damage of bear, the Torah holds one chayiv. First of all, lehavalei, for the fumes, and the culture and even the more so if the damage resulting in the impact from the impact of the fall, he got hurt or he got killed, for sure he should be chayiv. So now, according to Shmuel, so what is the circumstance concerning what the Mishnah said that if a shade fell backwards, la'acherav, into the pit from the sound of the digging, that'll be pater? What's the case? He says, example where the ox now stumbled on the pit. Now, but then it fell behind the pit and was injured outside the pit. So if it would have fell in the pit, according to Shmuel, he says chayiv. The Mishnah talks about a case of la'acharav mikol akriya. That's a different case, that he tripped over the pit, but then he fell backwards. So it wasn't that he actually got hurt in the actual beir, according to Shmuel. Okay. Now, the Gemara says, Eisvei.
What is chutz lebar? In other words, it fell backwards, nothing to do with the bar.
Okay, it tripped over the bar, but then it fell backwards, but not in the beir, according to Shmuel. then be chayiv according to Shmuel. Yeah, Shmuel says there's no difference between bein b'lefanav and bein b'lacherev. Because lahavole, because you're getting chabote. Okay, so now Esvei, the Chachamim raised the shaila to the opinion of Rav from a brisa. Bibeir. Now Rav says, what does the brisa say? Bibeir, with regards to an animal that fell into a beir, bein lefanav, bein lacharev, chayiv. Whether it fell in forward, whether it fell backwards, is chayiv. And Rav said that bein lacharev, he's potter. So Frag the Gemara tiyuf to the Rav. It's mamish a tiyuf to the Rav. Now, Rav Chizda says. Rav Chizda is going to explain how Rav's opinion also can accord with the brisa. Rav agrees, he concedes, in the case of a bear in his own property, in other words, not in Rishus Harabim, in his own property, the chayiv, that a person is chayiv even if the animal fell backwards. If the animal came in his own property fell backwards, then the guy will be a chayiv. Mishum the Amar Lei, because the owner of the animal can say to the owner of the pit, whichever way you look at it, you are chayiv. Why? If the animal died from the lethal fumes, then havlachti dachu. So it's your lethal fumes that killed my animal. And if it died on account of the impact, then chavta didachu. It's the impact of your land, and not the impact of the land in Rishus Harabim, which is the typical case of beir. So usually beir Rishus Harabim would be potter, but since Rav will agree, but Rav will agree in the case of its beir b'reshusay, and obviously the ox had reshus to be there, and now the ox fell inside, so Rav will agree, and that's what the Bryce is talking about, beir b'reshusay, that the owner of the bear will be chayiv because the owner of the ox will tell him, either way you look at it, if it's hevel, your hevel killed my ox, and if it's bear, so then the direct damage of the bear, the impact of your land killed my ox.
So how does that answer backwards?
So the backwards is talking about, that says it's potter, is talking about Rishus Harabim. But if in his Rishus, then it'll be chayiv. Sorry. Yeah, in his Rishus it'll be chayiv. Yeah. That's what because that's how we're going to answer the stira according to Rav. Because the Brisa Rav said lached of your potter. The Brisa says lached of your chayiv. How do you answer the stira? So Rabbi Chizda will tell you that in the case of B'rishusay, it'll be chayiv because the owner of the ox can tell him the Meiman of Shachspara. Okay, Rabbi says this is how the Brisa should be explained according to Rav. What are we talking about? B'mishapich, where the animal tumbled. Where it began to fall on its face, and afterwards tumbled and continued to fall on its back. The Havle Ahani Bey, he is chayiv because the lethal fumes, Ahani Bey, which were effective in injuring the animal, were also effective in killing it. So again, we have a few different answers. We have Rabba, we're dealing with damage to the pit that is caused by the ox. My Neo, what is that case? It contaminated the water in the beir, in which case, there's no difference if the animal fell forward, and it makes no difference if the animal fell backwards, since he's chayiv anyway, because the animal now caused this water in the pit to be tamei.
So we're not talking about the animal died.
According to Rabbi Yosef, we're talking about that the
Chayiv for the damage, you mean?
That the animal caused damage to the pit. No, the Gemara says this. Taner Rav Chanina l'siyud Rav. Rav Chanina taught a brayso in support of the opinion of Rav. Now, the Torah says with regards to damage caused by a pit to an animal, when a beir causes damage to the animal, the Torah says, if the ox or donkey, v'nafal, fell therein, which is mashma, that he's not chayiv unless the animal falls in the usual manner of falling. Mikan Amru, from here the Chachamim learn, nafal lefana mikela kriya, if it fell forwards due to the sound of the digging, chayiv is chayiv la'acher mikela kriya, but if it fell backwards due to the sound of the digging, potter, he is potter, and both this case and that case refers to damage by a pit. Okay. Amar Mar, we learned in the Mishnah, nafal lefana mikela kriya chayiv, if it fell forward due to the sound of the digging, he is chayiv. Why is this so? Let us say the sound of the digger. Now what happened over here? He's chayiv. So why is the digger chayiv? Let us say that is the sound of the digger that caused the animal to fall, and not the pit itself. So you're saying that the I guess it's mashma that it's mashma from the Mishnah that the sound, the guy who's making the sound, and the Baal HaSher is the same person. So here, I guess the Gemara is learning that it's three different people here. You have the person who's making the sound, and then you have the Baal HaSher. So Nafalim Lefana Mikhail Akriya, and it fell into the pit. So the Baal HaSher is going to be chayiv. In fact, the Gemara, why is the Baal HaSher going to be chayiv? Name a Keda Gromli. Let us say that it's the sound of the digger that caused the animal to fall, not the bait himself. So Mashim Varashi Harmani Reb Nosson. This is the opinion of Reb Nosson. The Amar Baal Habar Hazeka Ka'avid. Now, because he holds that the owner of the pit causes the damage by his digging.
So it's the same person digging.
That's the Pashas how we learned the Mishnah. So what is he saying? The owner of the pit causes the damage by his digging. Why? And anywhere that it's not possible to collect payment from the one who caused the fall, the digger, so then payment is collected from that one, the owner of the pit. This is because in any event, he has the responsibility for the hazard that he created. Now, the Tanya was talking about Brisa, with regards to an ox that pushed another ox into a pit. So you have ox 1, pushed ox 2 into the pit. So Baal HaSher Chayiv, the owner of the first, so again, Nachamo, Sher 1 pushed Sher 2 into a pit. So Baal HaSher Chayiv, the owner of the first ox is Chayiv. Baal HaBer Potter, and the owner of the first pit is Potter. Now Rabbi Nosson says no. Baal HaSher Mishalem Mechza, Baal HaBer Mishalem Mechza. The owner of the first ox pays half the amount, and the owner of the pit pays half the amount. Now, the Gemara clarifies Rav Nosson's shita. Tanya, but isn't it taught in a brisa? Rav Nosson said, Rav Nosson Emer, Baal HaBer Mishalem Shleisha Chalakim and Baal HaSher Revia. Didn't we learn that if an ox pushed another ox in the pit, the owner of the pit pays 3/4 and the owner of the ox pays 1/4? The Gemara says, like Kasha, it's not a shtira. Ha betam, ha bemuid. The second brisa is referring to a tam ox that pushed the second ox. Therefore, the owner of the ox that caused damage pays only 1/4 of the cost of the damage, which is half of which he is responsible. And the brisa, which says, referring to a muid that pushed a second ox, so the owner of the muid pays the full amount for which he is responsible, which is half the value of the total damage. And with regards to tam, what does Rav Nosson hold? Why is it that the person pays 1/4 and the owner pays, the pit pays 3/4? If he holds high kula zekavid, high kula zekavid, if he holds that this one, the ox performed all the damage, and the other, the pit performed all the damage, then high mishalim paga, high mishalim paga. Then he should have ruled that this one pays half and this one pays half, since they're both fully responsible. Now, although the ox was a tam, the owner is still chayav to pay half the damage, half the cost of the damage, as this is the liability occurred of an act of damaging by a tam. Now, v'yikasav, and if Rav Nosson holds that the owner of the ox is high palga zekavid, v'high palga zekavid, that he performed half the damage, and that one, the owner of the pit, performed half the damage, bala bur mishalim palga, bala bur sherdevia. So then the owner of the pit should pay half of the amount which is responsible, which is half the cost, and the owner of the tam should pay 1/4. As the other remaining quarter, the injured party has no recourse to claim it and loses it. So why does Rav Nosson hold that the owner of the pit pays for 3/4 of the damage? So Rabbi says this: Rav Nosson dayanahu. Rav Nosson was a dayan; he was a judge. And he went to the full depths of the halacha. Actually, he holds that high kula zekabed. This one performed all the damage. High kula zekabed, and this one performed all the damage. Or the kakashilach, and this you had a shaila l'shalem high palga. This one should pay half. This one should pay half. It's not a shaila. Because the owner of the ox can say to the owner of the pit, "Shutufai maya hanile." How did my partnership with you in this situation help me? Even if my ox caused all the damage and none of the damage was caused by the bait, I would be required only to pay chatzi nezek, half of the damage. Therefore, we are shutafim in this situation. Exactly, it's a tam. I should pay half of what I should have paid, which is 1/4. You should pay the other half of which I should have paid, in addition to your share, since you would have to pay for a nezek shalom. Iboy same, I can tell you another answer. Let them go suffer. Really, Rav Nosson holds high palga zekabed, high palga zekabed. Rav Nosson maintains that this one performed half the damage and this one performed half the damage. Or the kokashilach, and this you had a shaila bala ben mishalim palga bala shed mishalim revia b'idach revi nifsid. And this one pays half, this one pays 1/4, this one should lose. Should normally bala shed bala ben, because the bala shukah del bala bar ano teira b'bidach ashkechini ad katalti, because he could say, I found my ox in your pit, you killed it. Therefore, concerning the portion of the payment that I can receive from the other, the owner of the damaging ox, I will receive. And the portion that I'm unable to receive from the other individual, I will receive from you.
Why can't you receive from another individual? What's the reason why you won't receive it?
Maybe if he won't, if the guy says, I'm not paying you. I'm not sure. Okay. Amar Rava says, Hiniach Evan al pi abed, if a person left a stone at the opening of a pit belonging to another person. And the ox came and stumbled on it. And fell into the pit. So now we have a machlekes between the Rabbi Nosson and the Chachamim concerning the division of responsibility between them. Obviously, since what is the difference whether the ox fell into the pit due to another ox pushing it or due to the stone? So Mar says, you would think there, and the owner of the ox of the pit can say to the owner of the ox who is responsible for the damage, if not for my pit, your ox would have killed the second ox anyway, in which case my pit was not the cause of the damage. But here, the owner of the stone can say to the owner of the pit, if not for your pit, what would my son have done? If the ox would have stumbled on it, it would have simply fallen and gotten up, and I should be putter. So therefore, Rabbi teaches us that the owner of the pit can say in response to the owner of the stone, if not for your stone, the ox would have not fallen into the pit in the first place. Itmar was stated, Shade, there's a machlekes in regards to a shed tam and a disqualified psulei mikdashin, a disqualified consecrated ox that gored another ox together. So mind you, what's the halacha? What's the case if the ox that was either psulei mikdashin or it was they gored somebody else? What's the halacha? So mind you, shade b'ched delay parikli. Now, it's a firstborn ox that became blemished and was disqualified from a carbon. Nevertheless, its initial hektish remains, and therefore it may not be redeemed. So the kain in possession of it is not chayav for any damage, since it's not classified as the ox of another, as the status is not of it's not a non-hektish belonging to a person. So given this background, the question is, what is the liability of the owner of the non-sacred ox that gored together with it? So Abaya Omer Mishalim Chatzi Nezek, he pays half the damage, and Rabbi Omer Mishalim Rabbi Nezek, he pays 1/4 of the damage. Now the Gemara explains that Hava Hava Tam, both this one Abaya, this one Abaya and that one Ravina refer to the case where it was a shir tam, and Ha'akadabanim Ha'akadabnas, the opinion of Ravina is in accordance with the opinion of the Chachamim, and that each party is responsible for Chatzi Nezek. Since the non-sacred ox was a tam, its owner pays half the cost of the damage, which he is responsible, which is 1/4 of the total. And the opinion of Abai is in accordance to the opinion of Rabbi Nosson that each party in turn is responsible for all the damage. So since the non-hektish ox is a tam, the owner pays half of the damage. I can tell you that Bemis, both are the Chacham and it's the difference if it's a tam or a mud. Or I could say like this. There are those who say that the version of the machlekes is like this. Abai says Chatzi Nezek. Abai says that he pays half the damage. Ravina says Kulei Nezek, he pays the full cost of the damage. Now, and Hava B'Mued, both this one and this one are referring to the case of the Mued. Hakadabana and Abai holds in according to the Chacham that each one is responsible for half the damage, so he pays the share of the half of the total of the damage. Rabbi Nosson and Ravina holds in according to Rabbi Nosson that each one is responsible for the damage, and when one of the damage is exempt from payment, such as in this case, the entire amount is collected from the other guy. Or another answer, both is a Rabbi Nosson, Hava Tam, and it depends if it was a Mued or a Tam. Amar Rava says, Adam v'shar shadach v'lebar. It's an ox and a person that push a person or an animal into a pit. The Indian is zakin concerning damage that they caused. Kulon chayavim. The man who pushed the person or animal, the owner of the ox and the owner of the pit are all chayav to pay for the damage. The Inarbad Varim of the Mevul is concerning the 4 additional types of damages, which are loss of, let's say, nezek, tzari, b'yishev, b'beishus, all that stuff. Adam chayav. So with regards to the compensation of the Adam Yechayav, Sheribir Potter. Sorry, lenient are both vorm. The main blood is Adam is chayav, Sheribir is Potter. Now, with lenient kefer, with regard to the payment of kefer if it was a person who pushed and killed, and also concerning the 30 shkol and paid for Eved Knani, Sher Chayiv, and Adam Ubeir Pturim. In Kelim Sher Pturim Megdash, and Adam Sher Chayiv, and Ubeir Potter. My time, Omer Krav, Hameis Yilay. It says, and the mace shall be for him. Yatzazush Ein Hameis Shalai. This teaches us the obligation to pay damages is imposed only on the one whom the carcass belongs to, thereby excluding this case of a Psula Megdashin, where the carcass does not belong to him. In this case, it's also to sell the
man died as well.
Yeah. If the man dies as well. Okay, my time. Okay, fine. Now, is this to say that it was obvious to Rava? But there was a shayla that was asked by Rava. The boy Rava asked a shayla. What's the halacha in the case of a disqualified mukdashin that fell into a bear? What's the halacha? When the pasuk says, and the carcass shall be for him, it's referring to the one whom the carcass belongs to, the owner of the pit, which would be Yatzazu Ein Hamei, which will exclude where the carcass does not belong to him, and therefore the owner is exempt from paying for it. Or perhaps, and the carcass shall be for him, it's coming to teach that the owner of the animal retains ownership of the carcass, and therefore the guy of the damage pays him the difference. After he had the shaila, other pashta, he resolved it. And he concluded that the pasuk imposes liability for the cost of damage only on a person to whom the actual nevela belongs to, excluding the case of psula hamikdashin. So the Gemara asks, from where does he know that the owner attends to the animal's nevela? He learns this out from, and the carcass shall be for him. So the Gemara asks further, why do you see to determine that the pasuk and the carcass shall be for him stated with regards to an ox? You derive from the halacha that the owner of the dead attends to the carcass. And the carcass belongs to him stated with regards to a beir. Derive it from the halacha that only the one whom the carcass belongs pays the damage. Why can I reverse the learning from each pasuk and say the opposite? Gemara says, Mistabra potter gabe beit. It's reasonable to say that his potter applies to with regards to a pit. Hoil potter be kelim, since the Torah exempts him from paying the damage classified as beir caused by a keli. Adarabas. The Gemara says, on the contrary, potter gabe shed. One should claim that the exemption applies to the case of shed. Potter be bechatzi nezek, as we know the Torah exempted the owner of half the cost of the damage in the case of a shed tam by shed tam. So the Gemara says, Kule nezek miyas li'ashichan. We do not find that the owner of the ox is potter from compensation for the full cost of the damage. Now, with regards to bear, there are certain items for which a person is not chayav at all. Therefore, it's logical to say that the Torah is more makel in cases of bear than of ox. Okay, we'll stop here.